How you feeling?
I feel fantastic. You feel better now that you're in your old man pants?
Yeah,
Got your
I
Thanksgiving
was.
pants on with the stretchable waistband?
Oh, absolutely. My waist size has really grown.
I've noticed that.
Thank you. But I'm happy.
That's carbs are happiness. Carbohydrates and alcohol are pretty much equal happiness.
You eat a lot of carbs?
I
Not
mean,
anymore.
I've been trying to cut down, but
No, you're looking good. You're looking good.
there's like no, basically if it makes you happy, you can't have it.
That's right.
No sugar, no bread, no pasta, no pizza.
Now, see, you could do that when you were in your 20s.
I guess
No.
you
get-
can kind of, but you still,
All that energy.
I remember just feeling, I mean, I could eat, I can't eat 5 slices of pizza, 6 slices of pizza. I could do that in my 20s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And be okay. Like now, if I have more than 2 slices of pizza, I need a nap.
Yeah.
It's like you just fall asleep.
I need a nap. Do you nap?
I don't, when would I nap?
You
I don't have
gotta,
time.
you gotta take time for a power
My
nap.
wife is a big napper. She denies it. If you ever
Oh,
ask
I'm
her,
a big napper.
she'll deny it.
2 o'clock.
Really?
30 minutes. Go upstairs in my office. I got a little napping room.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting older, and you think about things like that.
So I don't know. I don't know where I heard this. I heard it or I read it somewhere, but it's like a CEO trick. So they call it the power nap. And what CEOs will do is, right, like they'll kind of calm themselves down and they'll get themselves ready for just like a 20 to 30-minute power nap in their office. But right before they get nice and calm, they'll drink about 16 ounces of coffee through a straw, cold coffee, pound it
I don't do that.
real quick, and then take a nap. And then just as the coffee is starting to kick in and hit you,
It wakes them up so they don't have to.
you kind of, and
They're
you're
not
also
out.
kind of, there's something that sleeping kind of refreshes your.
It does.
It refreshes your brain just as the coffee's kicking in as well.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
if
I've
it's-
never tried it, but
I
I've heard
didn't
of
used
it.
to nap, but as I get older and I think about things, you think about things when you're my age. Like, how young do you have to?
Think about things.
I do think about things.
I'm smart, Mike. I'm not dumb like everybody says.
No,
You know
when
what movie that is?
I knew,
No.
I knew it was you, Fredo.
Yeah, it was Fredo.
You broke my heart.
I watched. it
No,
the
what
other
I'm
day.
saying is, you get my age, you think about things. They're like, how young do you have to be before you die of old age?
I mean, you're there. So, nobody would, if you died right now, people would be like,
Yeah,
no, he had a pretty good, he had a good run.
Yeah.
Like,
he did
there's
some
no one,
funny videos.
no one would be like, he was cut down in his prime.
Thanks a lot. Oh, by the way, welcome to the podcast, which is called Unsolicited.
Unsolicited. Nobody asks.
Nobody asked,
We just volunteer.
but full discretion is advised.
Full discretion.
We're sitting here with Mr. Anthony Ruffalo
Certified financial planner.
and Mr. Keith Wilson, financial advisor extraordinaire. And we're going to talk about today financial planning and investing through the years, specifically
20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s.
40s, 50s, and 60s.
And let's give a shout out to our buddy Joe Conroy.
Who did
Decades in Decisions.
I did not. I didn't read this book beforehand.
No, I think
We're
he
not
actually has.
stealing anything.
I think he has 2 books, and I haven't read either one of them. No, I've skimmed. It's like one of those things where you skim it, you read it, you're like,
Yeah,
oh, okay,
yeah,
got it.
I
Yeah,
got
no, it's
it.
good. I see what he's doing here.
We're not going to go in that much in
Financial advisors, and this is not a shot at all my friends that have written, but basically, financial advisors that write books, it's just like a big business card. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And it's demonstrating to the public that, hey, this guy's serious. He took the time to spend $20,000 to pay somebody to write a book for him and, and crystallize his thoughts.
All right, let's start with people in their 20s. What are they going through? What should they need to know about, financial planning and investing? So first of all, you're a little more than 20 years old.
Yeah, I'm 44.
44.
44
I was in my prime at 44.
in 1944.
Ah, no, no.
So Keith,
What were you? What
what was it like?
What was it like? I'm going to ask you first.
What?
What was it like in your 20s relating to money? How did you treat money? Did you even think about it? What was going on in young Anthony Ruffalo's mind, let's just say at 25?
At 25 years old. So
And keep it quick.
keep it quick. Well, I always worked since 14. I always had a job. I always worked. Probably because I grew up, I want to say like we weren't poor, but we were like barely like getting by. I remember just barely getting by. Nothing like two pairs of sneakers, couple pairs of pants. I never went on a family vacation. Never been on a family vacation. We were just lower blue collar, very unemployed, chronically, not consistently employed. On one side, on my mom's side of the family, where I pretty much grew up, and then on my dad's side of the family, it was my grandfather. Growing up, I thought he was rich. He was a school teacher with just consistent employment and a pension, and a New York State school teacher who did well. At the time, he was making six figures in the '80s, so he was doing well.
Wow.
And they were very well to do, and I always thought that they were like rich. Now it's like that they're, it's just basic middle class. So what was I thinking? I was thinking I need to work because there's a lot of things that I wanted as a young man, and there was just no way to get them unless I worked. So I had to work. And then I learned sales really young, and that was kind of, learned how to do, sales. I worked for a couple of companies that were in sales, and I always made good money. And I learned how to make it quickly. So, and then post college, I actually got a degree in economics and finance. And then coming out of college, right out of college, I made six figures in 2003. And I was a good saver. I probably had, by the time I was 25, I had about $50,000 put away.
Do you want to ask me what it was like in my 20s?
Keith.
Yes.
What was it like in 1920? I'm sorry, I got that wrong.
When I was
Keith,
20 in 1920.
Keith, what was it like? What were the bread lines like during the Great Depression? Is it really as bad as, the old black and whites?
I didn't even know we were in a depression when it happened.
What was it like for your family? No, what was it like in your 20? You were 20 in what, 80?
Yeah, 86. I'm 59.
Yeah.
I know you think I'm 89.
No, I mean.
I know you treat me like I'm 89. My knees feel like I'm 89.
Yeah.
But in my 20s, as far as money is concerned, my thought was just paying the rent, being able to pay the rent. My mom and dad never taught me about money.
Mm-hmm.
Much like you, my mother's 92 now, and she has said not too long ago that she said, "I'm sorry, Keith, that you grew up not having things, and because we were poor." And I said, "We were poor? I didn't feel it." Now, I didn't have all the stuff. I didn't really ask. Well, I asked for Nike shoes when they came out. Didn't get them. I wore my brother hand-me-downs. But like you, my first job was a paper boy. I thought it was the neatest thing because I was the one that had to go collect the money.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like 8 or 9 years old as a paper boy. And we had, back then, we had a morning paper and an evening paper.
Mm-hmm.
Twice a day. And that's how people got their news.
Yeah.
But I got to go collect the money,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not good at math. I had to write a cheat sheet. If the bill might have been $1.30. If somebody gave me $5, I was. I said, "Oh my God!" So I actually, because people would usually give you a $5 bill,
Yeah.
so I had the cheat sheet, and
It's fun.
that
Interesting.
means this is how much I give you back.
Yeah.
But anyway, that
That's how
instilled
20-year-olds are today. Full circle.
Yeah, but that instilled. I liked the idea of working and making my money. I never. And Mom, if you're watching, I'm sorry, I don't remember. I don't think I ever got an allowance. I'm sure they gave me something, but I would mow yards growing up. So by the time I got in my 20s, I moved out at 19 or 20. Got an apartment. The rent was $375, and I had a roommate, so mine was whatever, half of that. And I worked during college, and I've got it in my wallet, a pay stub.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at a skating rink as a DJ and at a TV station.
That's awesome.
And I worked 55, on this pay stub, the two of them together was close to 60 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And at the skating rink, I think I got $2.80 an hour.
That's a great job. DJ skating rink. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fun.
But that was in my 20s, right after out of college. But I was just working to pay the rent. And I didn't live on campus in college, but I wanted to make my own money.
Yeah.
That's not.
It felt good, right?
It felt very good. It felt like an accomplishment. But I got in trouble with credit cards through college. They hooked you, and that piece of plastic was magic to me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel that emotional pain of letting go of a dollar bill.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, people carried cash.
Yeah.
Or they had a checkbook.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a debit card or anything like that. So I got in trouble in my 20s with credit card debt, and I obviously eventually got out of it. But I didn't have lessons. We didn't have social media or YouTube to learn about finances. But that got me on, I got to get out of that. I don't want this. I don't want to go back to mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
Because once I left, I didn't go back. But that's what I was going through, something similar to you. The 25-year-old today, on average.
Hit me with it.
Average income. And it depends on if you have a high school diploma, bachelor's degree, or advanced degree. So a 25-year-old, let's say they have a bachelor's degree. What do you think the average income is for them?
Average
Yeah.
across the entire country?
Yeah, there's a difference between average and median, but this says average.
Yeah. I don't know.
$57,000.
I was going to say 30 something.
$39,000 for a high school diploma. Advanced degree, $66,000.
Yeah. That's
So what in my practice, I see 20-year-olds come in.
yeah.
Some of them are, they've got the degrees and they said, "Whoa, now I'm making 80,000 or 60,000. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing." I think it's great. What I see the struggle that the average 25-year-old going through today is student loans. That's what I run into. That's my experience.
Yeah.
Got a couple in their late 20s. Both of them they're therapists, physical therapists. So they've got that medical type of background. Good job, but they've got $300,000 in student loan debt. And it's killing them. They're playing the game of, do we wait and see if this magic wand is waved, that student loan is forgiven? And they've been playing that game for a couple years.
This is a tough one.
So student loans is one thing. There's the average 25-year-old now. They're starting a career, not just a job, and they're starting career. That's a struggle. They're going through inflation like everybody else, but when you're lower on the totem pole, that hits harder.
It does.
$8.
It's like inflation is a regressive tax. So, it hits you harder at the bottom. The closer you are to the bottom of the income scale, the harder it hits you.
$8 for a dozen eggs probably doesn't mean anything to you.
it just it's annoying.
It's annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying. But no,
So, you know what
but
we
I've
used
been there. But you know what? I paid my dues. And right now, I kind of sound, I don't want to sound flippant about it, but no, it doesn't make a difference relative to my income and
Sure.
assets now at this point in my life. But there was a time when I used to go to Walmart and I had $40 worth of groceries for the week. And I've been through it. I've been there and I've done that.
I mean, if I was 20-year-old, back then at 20 years old, if a dozen eggs were $8, I could not, Halloween's screwed. I can't egg anybody else, you know. And toilet paper, forget about it.
Yeah.
But so these are some of the common struggles, and plus
Well, I think
some peer pressure with,
No, here's
all
the-
the social media.
No, the 20-year-olds, the worst part of a 20-year-old, it's so much harder for them because of the phone. Everything is frictionless. So when I was 25, it was just we just started, like, there was just ATMs popping up. Or no, it was a little no, I was like 18 when we had ATMs, but I still had to bring my check to the bank and cash the check on a Friday to get the cash out to go spend it. Everything now is 100% frictionless. You can spend money from your phone. Not only is it frictionless, but you can you have Amazon, where you can buy basically any product, anything that you could possibly think of, you can get with a couple of clicks that's linked to your debit card or your credit card. You've got Apple has almost an infinite amount of products that you can buy from the App Store, software, apps, games. There's
Subscriptions and all kinds.
subscriptions and music. And I mean, you used to just go and buy like a $10 or a $20 CD and you're done. Now you can, now it's like now it's subscriptions for music. It's infinite. Everything has a monthly subscription fee to it.
You don't remember this, I know. Well,
Say Columbia House.
oh.
Tape the two pennies to this.
That's a good one too. I did that. Tape a penny.
I still owe them money.
I remember when fast food places first started accepting credit cards. That was a good 35 years ago. And it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Because I was dating a girl back then, and her dad was a doctor, so they were kind of well-to-do. But he got to talking, and he was saying, he gave her, she was in college, he gave her a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
And when they opened up the fast food places, we were out to dinner or something, he said, I can't believe, who can spend $18 at Taco Bell back 35 years ago?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, she was buying it for everybody, I guess. But the point is, it's so easy. It's frictionless, like you saying. So the access
is frictionless.
Is a struggle. And then
goes.
the peer pressure, and you see this stuff on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And
the TikTok, the social media
you need to have
shopping,
a
the Instagram
Lamborghini.
shopping.
You need to have a Lamborghini. The influencers.
And it works.
Modeling and all
It
that
works.
stuff. It does work. Or
As a
else it wouldn't be
40-year-old,
there.
as a 40-year-old man now, I know it's complete BS. But as a
25?
as a 20-something-year-old,
Yeah, no.
having if that was in my face, flaunted constantly, along with all of the other natural insecurities that you have at that age, as a young man, it's I can't imagine what that's like now. Like, it's brutal to your psyche.
Remember the slogan, "Be like Mike."
Yeah.
I want to be like Mike.
Yeah.
Like Jordan. I want to be like Mike. I want those shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's been around forever. It's called advertising.
Sure.
They got really good at it. All right, so looking back, or as a financial planner advisor now, what's a number one tip? We can't give advice. We don't give advice. These are things to consider. But a tip for the 25-year-old today. Number one tip. Or you can have a couple.
I'd say just in your 20s, man, if you are if you're not going into debt and you are just living below your means and saving a little bit, you're doing good. Give yourself a little bit of grace. You
Yeah.
don't have to have the world figured out. You don't have to have it all figured out, but the first thing is having a solid career path. Like steady employment is the key. So that's absolutely the key to accumulating any type of wealth. Number one is a steady, consistent employment without gaps in employment. And then when you have the steady, consistent employment, you can create a budget for yourself and you can live below your means, even if it's just saving a couple of $100 a month and not going into debt. If you just do those two things, consistent employment, and don't go into debt, you set yourself up for success in the future, because when in your 30s and 40s, as you grow and you progress in your career, then you'll really start making the big money. You'll start saving the big money, and then you'll get serious about saving and planning. And I really think the impetus for that is when you get married and you have a family. I think that's when it really sets in, because the responsibility of there's something bigger than me and more important than me really hits home. And that's when I see, at least men, really, because women are more mature just naturally, but men really just grow up and they're like, yeah, no, it's not about me. It's about something bigger than me. And typically that is like family, or maybe you get somebody pregnant, you have a kid on the way, and that's finally that wake up call to, yeah, now let's get serious about this thing.
I would say my number one tip, and I'll keep it short.
Sorry.
It's okay. You're used to being short.
Well played, Keith. Well played.
My number one tip would be...
You know what? I may be short. There's nothing I can do about that. But
go ahead.
at least I'm not ugly. Never mind. Go ahead.
Number one tip for the average, let's say 25-year-old is
We know you're handsome. You got that. I can't wait till the summer. You
Oh
get that
man,
nice golden
that
cookie.
toasty,
You get
toasty tan.
You remind me of Basil Hayden toasted.
But
No,
anyway.
go ahead. What's your tip?
Number one tip for, say, a 25-year-old or in your 20s is automate your savings right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Pay yourself first. You've always heard it. Start small. I know your income might be lower, but start small. And one of the main reasons you want to automate, just simply set up, maybe through your work, the 401k, maybe you can only do 1%, 2%, something. Also automate outside of that, build up that emergency fund. Every pay period, have something automatically deducted from your checking account to a savings account.
Mm-hmm.
And you can start small. And the main reason is this is going to set you on a habit. If you're doing it now and you're seeing it work and you're seeing it grow, it becomes addictive.
Yeah.
So
And I would say
big time
automate something that is not connected to your phone. So have a brokerage account somewhere
that's almost untouchable,
that
or
is
at least
just a little barrier to entry. Checking accounts and savings accounts don't work for savings because they're on your phone and you just transfer back and forth. It doesn't matter if it's in a quote unquote savings or a money market. What matters is that you have access to it for when the impulse strikes you. So I would have a brokerage account somewhere, and do not have that app downloaded on your phone.
and just set it and forget it.
Yep.
You're building those habits because the decisions you make today affect what's going to happen.
Not
in the
yesterday. They affect
the future.
tomorrow.
The future.
Very good, Keith. All right,
All
your
right,
30s.
We're now. What about
Probably
in your
20 minutes
30s?
into something that should have taken 2.
All right.
30s.
30s. What was it like for you in the 30s? What were you going through money wise?
So, well, it's hard to say money wise because life is kind of connected to money. So 30s was my big F up. So that's where I was off to a good start in my 20s. And when I was 27, 28, Keith, you got to seriously start considering salads.
I know. I think
I mean,
broke this
even the chair is
This chair's
crunching
creaking.
under there. I feel like you're an accident waiting to happen.
No, I'm going to get a salad with a gallon of ranch dressing.
It's either going to be a heart attack or the chair's going to break, and I'm going to have to scrape you off the floor.
All right, what were you going through?
Well, I had at that point, I probably had about $100,000 saved, but I was also used to making $100,000, and I levered up my lifestyle. I had the Infiniti G35 with a $700 a month car payment, and I had a nice one bedroom condo in uptown Charlotte that was a $2,600 a month payment. And I was going out, I lived uptown, so it wasn't anything to spend $100 on a bar tab on a Monday or going out. And then I was also engaged at the time. So to somebody who was intermittently working, who also had some health issues. So it was just a trifecta of things. So I didn't make money for probably 2 years. It took me 3 or 4 years to get back to six figures. And during that time period, I was depleting my savings, so I couldn't sell my condo because I bought it for $259. It went from $259 to $180 in a matter of months because of so I couldn't sell it, couldn't short sell it because it would affect your credit. As a financial advisor, I was worried about my credit being destroyed and not being able to continue in my profession because I didn't know what would happen there. So I was hamstrung on that, couldn't get rid of that expense. And that just I was overextended. I didn't have emergency savings. I was saving everything in qualified retirement plans. And I had very, very little liquidity outside of that. So my advice in your 30s is make sure you don't grow into your lifestyle. Don't overextend yourself. Always make sure you have your emergency 6 to 12 months of emergency funds put away. I think what's happened in the markets this very last week is demonstrated how fast
Things can change.
the market can turn on us. We went we were up, down, I don't know, what was it, 12%, not even peak to trough, but we were down 11% in a day. In a day. I've never seen a move like that, an intraday move like crazy. How fast the market has moved. So that has been a great reminder of how important it is to have money not at risk. So 30s, yeah, I know that was long-winded.
That's okay.
But I feel like I did give you background.
You gave me a lot of background.
Sorry.
So when I say keep it short, again, you should be very used to that.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right. So when I was in my 30s, I'll keep this really quick.
Got it.
Now I'm, Mr. Financial Guy.
Yeah.
But, I was early on in my career.
It's really hard.
It was very difficult. And so, I didn't work for a company. The last time I punched a clock was at the skating rink in 1988, So now here I'm in my 30s. I've got 3 kids. I've got a nice size mortgage at that time. Not in today's dollars, but back then it was rough.
Yeah.
I got 3 in diapers. I've got all kinds of stuff going on. It was a struggle for me to save anything.
Sure.
Because it was just, and plus, and it's probably a man thing, that the responsibility you were alluding to when you get married and then you have kids. Because there's a difference between adulting and being an adult. You can be an adult without adulting.
Well, let me ask you, expand on this. I think there's another, as a financial advisor, tell me, there's another added layer of pressure, financial pressure, because there's requirement, like you can't show that you're struggling. It's not like you're in construction. Like if you're in construction and there's a market lull, let's forget people like, oh, he's in construction, like residential home sales are down, or but you're a finance guy.
You better look the part, is what you're saying.
Well, not only look but you better have your shit together,
Yeah.
right? Because you're still and you're struggling yourself to save and make ends
Yeah.
meet and put it together. But then you have to present this facade of like, I've got it all together, so you can attract other people as clients. What I mean, did you feel that pressure?
I was preaching and teaching and coaching and advising, have so much an emergency fund, don't buy more than this and do that. And yet I wasn't following those rules.
That's exactly what I mean.
You're correct.
You feel like a hypocrite.
I felt like a hypocrite, but man, it was a struggle. It was just because of the home life. You know, you're wiped out. I was working 12, 13-hour days,
Yes.
and you come home and dad can't
You're
just,
shot.
Dad can't just sit on the couch.
No.
He's got to participate.
Yep.
And will happily so, but it was just tough. You know, in the 20s, I was just worried about paying the rent.
Mm-hmm.
In the 30s, I'm married with 3 kids. I'm worried about a family
Yeah.
and providing.
Right.
So it was a struggle.
And also showing up as a father.
And showing up as a father in the whole
But you're
whole 9
also
yards.
mentally exhausted.
But people in their 30s today, they're going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed. Messy middle, tricky 30s, whatever you want to call it. That doesn't change. You still have those struggles. And then the other struggle of somewhat of a peer pressure thing. Again, they're seeing others exceeding or excelling, supposedly.
Maybe.
So there's some of that keeping up with the Joneses, because now you got a family,
Keeping up with the Wilsons.
keeping up with the Wilsons, and you're meeting other people in the neighborhood of like mine, and they've got families, community get-togethers. How are they living in that house? And so those are some of the struggles. It's but my advice for someone in their 30s is not financial, but take a breath. It's going to be okay. This too, and don't wish it away. You're wishing some of your, I'm going to say I was. I remember the babies. Oh, I can't wait until they walk. I can't wait till they talk. I can't wait until they can actually play ball with me. And I was missing the moment in time, because now I'm saying, that was easy.
Right.
That was easy. Looking back. So stay in the moment, create the experiences with your family, and take a breath. It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. Everything going to be all right, man.
Everything going to be
It's
irie.
going to be irie.
Irie.
You just figure it out. And you know what? If you don't, that's fine.
All right, now we're moving on to the 40s. That's you, man.
Yeah.
You're 44?
Yep.
What was it? Well, you're in the moment right now. Well, you're not your average 44-year-old.
Yeah. No, so the average, I feel great now. I mean, just everything's compounding and growing. And, of the last 10 years, anybody with assets, so if you owned a home and if you have money in markets, 401ks, IRAs, stocks, or whatever, you've been the beneficiary of the government's quantitative easing, because the government's quantitative easing and stimulus and basically money printing has pushed anybody with assets up. You've been a beneficiary of that. So I've definitely been a net beneficiary of that. Plus, the nature of a planning business is, that business has been I've been building and growing and building and growing, and it's finally, all come to fruition. So now my time is my biggest challenge, because I've got the 5 and the 8-year-old at home, and I don't want to mess that up but I don't worry about money anymore. And I don't say that because I'm a financial advisor. I'd say that because, if you've been saving and investing for so long, you kind of start to see, it just starts to click that, like, oh yeah, this is going to be okay. And
You're getting more of an experience of the nature of the beast.
yeah, you go through a couple crashes, a couple cycles, and then you come out on the other side, and it's like down, up, down, up, down, up. But and then you just kind of you get to this asset level and you're like, oh wow, no, it is going to be okay. And if I continue this for another 10 or 15 or 20 years, yeah, I don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, but I know it's going to be fine. And I just kind of, feel much better about that.
In my 40s, which was only a couple of years ago, right? I wish. No, 40. Actually, so.
Can you remember your
so
40s?
The 40s was my best decade.
Yeah. I definitely feel like that now.
So far.
Yeah.
But things started to click. Things started to fall into place. I was truly adulting and getting, all my eggs in the baskets, income-wise, was growing. But now I'm dealing with teenagers, getting the preteens, and so and all three kids were in private school. Mm-hmm. I mean, we decided that early on. Just that was our decision.
Yeah, that's a big nut.
Mom's still at home. Mm-hmm. Everything's now we've got in these private schools. Tuition is about like college almost.
Yeah, it is.
There was not a lot of money left over. I paid myself first. We've got the tuition. We're doing everything else, and it wasn't a lot of fun time. Mm. And so that's somewhat of a regret. I wish I could have created more experiences. We didn't go to Disney World. We didn't do all that. We had 1 week vacation each year.
Yeah.
And it was going to the beach.
Well, and
Nothing
that was
extravagant.
Well, when you have 3 kids in private school, that was a conscious decision.
That was a conscious decision.
And that was there's no right or wrong. There are just trade-offs. I have clients that are in a similar position. They send their kids to private school, and they know that $50,000 a year is a huge impact to lifestyle, but they're a living embodiment of their values.
Although going back to the private school, one of the best days of my life was when my oldest got kicked out.
So then, did you take a vacation the next year?
I was about to say that's why it was somewhat of a relief.
Yeah.
Other than I don't want to say it like that because I was so.
I know what you're saying.
I was pissed.
It's not about the money.
I was ticked.
No, it's not about the money, but that was the financial relief was the silver lining. It's not like, hey, it's your kid. You do what you got to do.
Right.
And you were happy to do it. But as long as I'm in this situation, the extra 40 grand is a nice little kicker here, right? Yeah.
I think I did buy a boat the next year. They'll remember that more than being kicked out of school.
So probably. 40s, what's your advice for your 40s since we're running really long?
Yeah. So in your 40s, now things are starting to click in, right? Mm-hmm. And retirement is kind of in your mind. Now you're thinking, maybe I should really think about planning
at 40, you should definitely get a financial advisor. Maybe you don't need a financial advisor, an ongoing relationship, but you should definitely do a financial plan of some sort, if not hire one.
Yeah, like a one-time thing and shoot me on the right path. You could do that.
You need to know where you're going.
Really sometimes you need a relationship ongoing.
Yeah.
But you definitely need to consider at least that planning process. Because at this age, you're running
out of time for compounding interest.
Your income is really starting to shoot up there.
Yes, and you want to make sure you're taking care of maxing out qualified plans and employer benefits and taking advantage of all the things because you're running out of time. If you're looking at a 60, 65 retirement, you've only got two or three doubles left, if that. That's if everything goes perfect.
All right, now we're in our 50s, or at least I am.
50s.
You cannot reflect upon that.
I cannot reflect.
I can.
I can only prognosticate.
And I'll be really, really quick.
Yeah.
Because I'm 59 years old at the date of this recording.
Jesus, you're right on the
cusp.
Can you access your IRA without a 10% penalty now?
In a couple of months.
You're there.
Actually, so reflecting upon my 50s, and we'll start with the early 50s. income really has gone, we're clicking now. We're doing good. But in the early 50s, you're thinking about your kids going to college and things like that. That's an expense. Mainly what I'm reflecting on, I got the plan. I got the financial plan. I'm looking at it. It makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm on track. Because for me, I'll reflect, I don't have a retirement end date.
Right.
When it happens, it happens.
But you do have a number that you're planning around.
Yeah, I've got the numbers, and we're we're
I think
fine.
everybody.
We're track.
I
on
think
track.
everybody should have a number that says, like, you know what, I want to be. I want to.
Oh,
be,
I've done all these scenarios. I mean, I could do it.
I'm just saying, not for you, but in general, I think every 50-year-old, whether they think they're going to retire or not, because life is so much different. 15 years, you should have a number picked out, a 62 or a 65 or a 67, whatever it is, and say, I want to make sure that I can,
If
I want, because you never know with your health. You need to be in a position to be done by a certain age.
work optional type of thing.
Work optional, work part-time, or whatever. Now, you get to 65, you hit that number, everything's great, and keep going. I'm not a fan of, I think, I used to think that the dignity of hard work was just a soundbite from the Reagan era, and it couldn't ring any truer than it is, today. Like, I've got to stay occupied, I've got to stay busy, and I think everybody does.
But what's on my mind, being in the 50s, it probably started on that birthday at 50. That's a milestone, and that's you're thanking.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm thinking more of, geez, the average life expectancy 76. I'm 59.
Mm-hmm.
That's 17 years away.
Yeah.
And
And that's average.
That's average. So I think about that a lot. And now it's more, I want to make definitely sure everybody's taken care of.
Yeah. And what does that mean?
That if I'm gone
Mm-hmm.
prematurely, no one will suffer financially. They'll suffer because I'm gone. Because I was the best human being in this house.
Right? Arguably by you.
Yeah. I want, my wife's there to live a lifestyle that she's accustomed to, and then some. I want her to marry a 40-year-old as soon, the next year.
I'm pretty sure
gone.
she's done with marriage. She'll enjoy
She's got
being
bad taste in her mouth.
she'll enjoy being a widower for the rest of her life.
No, that's what I'm going through. And then your health. The first, Anthony, if it hadn't happened, when you hit 50, and then your knees are the first to go.
I still feel good overall,
You're not 50. I'm saying wait.
but I'm in way better shape than you.
You're 44.
What
I
I'm
was-
saying, my 44 versus your 44.
Oh, I might, on YouTube, if we're going to put this video, I'm going to show a picture of me at 44.
A picture doesn't mean anything.
Oh, it's great.
I always look like I'm
It's
out of shape.
Michelangelo. I mean, it's a work of art. I was in the
You're an
best
Adonis?
shape. I was in the best shape of my life at 46.
Wow.
The best shape of my life. And then
That means you must have been in terrible shape before that.
now I'm just a well-rounded person. I'm a well-rounded person.
That chair is about to buckle over there.
No, anyway, that's kind of what's going on in my mind. So the struggles of the 50-year-olds that we meet,
I can see that.
they're kind of going
It's
through the same thing.
mortality.
It's mortality, and now retirement planning is a must.
Yeah.
You got to look at your goal line. So I've got a lot of. It's kind of funny, Anthony.
But
when I
you're
meet-
lightening. But your stress level is lightened up, right? Like you don't feel
It's
stretched.
a different type of stress not for me, but for the average 50-year-old that I see.
Yeah.
Because it's funny when a 30-year-old, mid-30s, come to me and they want a financial plan, and maybe they've stepped it up with their income, and they're able to save. Hey, when do you want to retire? We want to retire when we're 50.
Mm-hmm.
That's That's very common. When we get a 40-year-old, maybe 60, you get the 50-year-old, 65 when Medicare starts because I'm worried about health insurance. So the average person that I meet with in their 50s, retirement planning is the top
Yeah.
goal,
Yeah, sure.
top of the heap. And that's where we build that plan. When do you want to retire? So a 55-year-old, maybe 60, 65, depends on their situation. So that's the must. So my number one tip for a 50-year-old is, the retirement planning and
Sounds like it should
estate
be.
planning.
I was going to say it sounds like it should be
Estate
estate
planning.
documents.
Getting your estate documents together,
Yeah.
and
I-
making sure you're on track.
Of the estate documents, I would say the power of attorney is probably the most mission critical thing.
It's most everybody thinks the will is the
No, it's the power
most
of
important.
in my opinion, power of attorney because
Planning for incapacity.
yes, incapacity issues are worse because if you're alive and you're incapacitated, it's much more of a burden on your spouse to get everything in order.
Financial
Because if you
power
die,
attorney.
eventually everything's going to go.
That's right.
It's going to be dispersed out, and most people have beneficiary designations taken care of. The big, houses are usually joint. I would say most general situations would be fine if it actually has to run through. Do you want to make it cleaner and quicker and faster and more efficient? Yeah, absolutely. But in the absence of a will, as long as you're a traditional married couple, whatever, it's going to be fine.
So, estate planning documents, retirement planning, get that nailed down. That's the number one tip. Moving on,
Yeah.
I'm close to 60s, in your 60s. So I can't reflect. You can't reflect on what it was like, but we can talk about what we see on a daily, weekly basis
Yeah.
of 60-year-olds coming in. So I'll go first. What I'm seeing with the 60-year-olds is, again, retirement's number one. Now the plane is coming down, and we hope for a
You're about to do
safe-
deplane.
the plane. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Fantasy Island?
Yep.
So retirement, we don't want it to be a fantasy island and say the plane. We want to bring this plane
Yeah. You want to.
safely down.
All right. And how do you do that?
Well, now it goes back to the plan. Now we're going to reevaluate the plan. Now we're looking at, we got a plan for income in retirement. Because if you built the plan, we've got the when, the what does it look like, and we've got the how, but now we've got to unwind this thing.
Right.
And and you've said it before, the drill.
Drill down, baby.
Drill down. Why don't you remind the lovely folks in TV land
So
what drill is?
So the framework
And make it
quick. The framework I work within is called drill. You drill down for retirement, which is distribution management. So if you've got IRAs and 401ks and Roth and non-qualified or life insurance or annuities, there's all these different types of money that have different types of taxation associated with them. So when we want to, if you say, I need $10,000 a month net after tax, there's also Social Security and pension. So if you said, I need $10,000 a month net after tax, we optimize based on your current tax situation where to pull from in order to get you that $10,000 a month with the least tax impact. So that's the first part of the process. The risk management is the second part, is we're managing risk. That's risk of a health event, long-term care, investment risk, inflation risk, tax risk. There's a whole slew of different risks that we have to manage for. With the most important one being sequence of return risk as you are transitioning into retirement, which goes back to bucket planning or time segmented planning, which is what you were alluding to, which is retirement income planning and making sure that you have a strategy laid out. Legacy is, hey, you're in your 60s now, and now it's just kind of like, that sound shitty about it, but it's a ticking time bomb. Like, it's not a matter of if someone's going to die, but when somebody's going to die. And what does the widow tax look like? What does your income tax bracket look like? What type of planning can we do to get ahead of that? And where do you want, like what you were saying, you said you want to make sure that everyone's taken care of. Well, really, what does that mean? If you have a net worth of, say, $3 million and you've got 4 people, it goes to your wife. And then ultimately, what are your instructions that you want to leave to your wife? Like, hey, Sarah, if you have 3 million and you like 3 million, like how is this going to get dispersed to the kids? Well, you have 3 kids with 3 different stages of life. And should some be left in a trust? Should some be left outright? Should you change what assets are left to whom because of their tax? You may have one kid who makes $800,000 a year and is in a 37% federal bracket, and you may have another kid that makes $50,000 a year as a school teacher. Well, by changing around what assets you leave to whom, you can optimize that inheritance. Now, that's getting real deep and complex, but that is the legacy. Or is there church or charity involved? Or do you have charitable intent? Where do you want all of the money to go? And maybe you can start gifting some of that now while you're alive, giving with a warm hand instead of a cold hand. And then, of course, taxes and investments are always a common thread that are, that you weave throughout that.
I think
process.
this is why it could be the most important time to meet with a financial advisor. The unwinding, because you can screw that up.
Absolutely.
With the tax planning strategies and the sequence of withdrawals from accounts.
Yes.
So that would be my number one tip for someone in their 60s. If you've already got the plan, get serious and meet with whoever built it. Or if you haven't built it, have someone build it that knows what they're doing to walk through these steps of your future retirement goals.
Yeah. And I'll give you a simple, because I feel like there's a lot of vagaries there, but a real simple.
Vagaries?
Vagaries, yeah.
Is that a word?
It is now.
Is that like strategery?
Strategeries. You can add ES to anything you want.
Okay.
Let's just say.
It's a roughism.
Let's just say that you need, again, $120,000 a year to live off of, and you're going to have $60,000 from Social Security. Well, a real simple exercise is, well, what's your lifestyle look like? What do you need? What do you need to have coming in to pay your basic lifestyle expenses? And I'm in the camp that whatever that is should be on a guaranteed basis, either through pension, Social Security, or annuity income. You should have that, or treasury bills, whatever way you want to build it. That you should have that guaranteed income carved out, either in a time segmented fashion or in perpetuity, depending on how you want to do it. So you have that, and then you have your discretionary bucket of funds where you pull from, and then you bridge that gap. So you always want to make sure your basic living expenses are covered. And then above and beyond that, you want to know where you're going to pull from for the extras, for the wants, for the fun stuff. It does not have to be complicated. It's just as simple as that.
All right, I think that's going to wrap it up for the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yes.
Are you looking forward to the 50s?
I'm trying to stay in the moment.
There you go.
I'm really enjoying my 40. This is my favorite decade so far. It's my 40s.
All right. Hope you have enjoyed this episode.
Probably not.
Unsolicited.
But
full discretion is advised.
See you later, buddy.
See you next time.
Hard work really does come and pay off. Every day working, we don't really need no days off. It was a struggle, but thank God that we stand tall. Now we pulling up, looking strong like we gonna brawl. They be lucky if they standing on 10 toes. They don't know how we roll, but they gonna know.